In this video, we're going to be talking about stoma or stomata. Picture this, a dark night. There's a plant rooted deep into the soil, and we know that plants take up water from the soil along with some minerals, and they suck it up into this xylem, right, which is in the stem, and it transfers it against gravity to the rest of the leaf. The leaf cells will take up this water, use the minerals to grow and survive, and some of the extra water will leave the plant via a process called transpiration. This is pretty much just a plant way of sweating. Okay, transpiration just means sweating, but in a plant. So how does it sweat? How does this water leave? This water leaves through something called a stoma. This is kind of like the sweat gland of a cell, of a plant cell. Okay, so if we look real close at this plant cell, at this leaf, we will see these little structures. So we'll see a whole lot of, these are normal cells. You can see they make this circular pattern. Okay, let me make this clear. Those are normal plant cells, these. So this is what we see when we look real close. These normal cells, and they form this circle-like pattern, okay? For simplicity's sake, I didn't include the nucleus and all these kinds of structures, but remember, they do have these things. It's just normal plant cells. And then in addition to that, we have these two extra cells in the center of these circles, of these normal plant cells. And they are called guard cells, okay? Guard cells do just what the name says, guard. They guard the plant from losing water. So if these guard cells stick together like this, or they close the passage, then no water will leave the plant, okay? It's guarding the water from leaving, okay? And at night, these guard cells are in this shape. They close the hole, so nothing can leave. You can see they're so tight together that nothing can leave out of this structure. Now, why do they close? Why does the plant want to preserve water? Why doesn't the plant want to lose water at night? So the reason is, at night, we know photosynthesis does not happen because the sun is required for photosynthesis. So the plant wants to prevent water loss so that in the morning, when the sun is there, there's enough water to do photosynthesis with, because photosynthesis requires carbon dioxide and water and sunlight, right? So without water, if it kept losing water throughout the night, by the time the morning comes, it may not have enough water to do photosynthesis properly, okay? So that's how you can remember that. Now, what else do we need to know? These cells, right, as I said, are called guard cells. If you look real close at them, there's something unique about them that you should know. So here we got them. I have one here for you. What do you notice about this cell? Also, I ignored the organelles and stuff inside once again, just because they don't matter so much for this video. But just know they also have organelles, just like normal plant cells. What's special about this cell? What do you notice? Do you notice the one side is so much thicker, the membrane is so much thicker than the other side? Or this one portion is thicker compared to the rest? Do you notice this? Okay, that's because the one side of this guard cell is made up of more cellulose. Cellulose is a structure of the membrane that makes it strong. So the inside has more of this cellulose. So it's stronger than the rest of the cell membrane. Okay, this is the strong part, more cellulose, and then this is the weaker part, less cellulose. Okay, bear this in mind. This is going to matter very soon. And then the stoma, by the way, as I said, this is what the video is about, is the little hole that is formed when these guard cells open up. And we'll see what happens when they open up, because they open up during the day, but we're going to get to that just now. So the stoma is the hole through which the water leaves, the hole through which the plant sweats, okay? Now we're going to get to a bit more interesting stuff, okay? So what happens is, during the night, like I said, these guard cells are closed. Why are they closed? Explain this to me. So the reason why is because the normal cells, okay, here we look at what's inside the normal cells. They have a lot of this molecule here. Let me show you. The smiley face molecule, okay? This smiley face molecule is called potassium, okay? or the symbol form is K plus, potassium. This is an ion, and let me show you, let me make it clear. So here we got it, potassium. This smiley face, whenever you see that, that means potassium. Okay? Now, I'm not going to reveal all this, it's going to take too much time, but basically, potassium is this molecule. Potassium is an ion. We know that wherever there's a lot of potassium, it's very concentrated. And we know water goes wherever there is a high concentration of solute or a high concentration of ions because it wants to dilute that area. So at night, we have a lot of potassium in our normal cells. And this means water will follow them and go to these normal cells, okay? So they will stay with these normal cells to dilute all this potassium, okay? So the normal cells will have a lot of potassium, whereas these guard cells will have no potassium or very little. So therefore, the guard cells will have very little water because the water will go where there's a high concentration of potassium to even it out, to dilute it, okay? Because osmosis is when this is basically osmosis. Osmosis is when water travels to an area of high solute or potassium concentration, okay? So that's the case at night. Now, what happens is, when we reach daylight, okay, daylight, so here we got, it's a lovely day now, the next morning, and what happens is, this picture will change. So this is what it looks like at night. What happens is, during the day, so I'm going to bring the sun over here. During the day, something interesting happens to the guard cell. So here I have the sun. Okay, now what happens is, during the day, the potassium ions get pumped into the guard cells, out of the normal plant cells. Okay, I'm not going to do it for all of them, but basically all the potassium comes from everywhere, all the normal cells into the guard cells. So what do you think is going to happen now with the water? That means the water will follow because the water likes to go to the area of high concentration. And if all the potassium ions were forced into this guard cells, then the water will follow to dilute it, right? So now the guard cells will get so full of water, it's going to get like pretty much packed. Now, what do you think is going to happen to the shape of this guard cell? So if this guard cell gets, wait, let me make this clear. So if this guard cell gets packed now with water, how is its shape going to change? Okay, pretend it's real packed. What do you think? It gets fuller and fuller and fuller, like a balloon. So we know that this inside is made up of more cellulose, so it's stronger, and this side is weaker. So when it gets full of water, this side will expand a lot, whereas this side will not. This side will kind of stay the same length. So you can imagine, as water gets full, the shape will be like, it will start bending out, bending out, bending out, bending out like this, and forming kind of a half moon shape. You see what I mean? So here I have a picture. So this is what's going to happen. It will start having this half moon-like shape. So the weaker side will expand, as you can see here. It expanded so much. Look, it's all the way from here and expanded all around. Whereas this side didn't expand and it stayed very stiff, okay? So you can see it formed this half moon shape, okay? That's what happens during the day. So essentially, this picture here from the night will transform into this. Okay, we'll have two half-shaped cells, two half moon-shaped guard cells, and this will create a small hole. Okay, so this small hole will now mean water can exit because there's water behind this door, behind these guard cells. So if this small hole is created, now the water can transpire or sweat out. Okay. Let me make it clear real quick. Everything again, just to emphasize. All the ions moved into here, and the water followed by osmosis gets crowded. The guard cells get crowded. Since the outside is weaker, it will expand and the inside will not expand, and this will create a half moon shape, okay? Allowing the stoma. So this is a stoma, okay? The stoma, the hole. Now, one more thing you gotta know, the last thing, is something called abscisic acid. Okay, abscisic acid is made by the roots. Okay, so it's made here during times of drought. So say for example, this plant hasn't received water for a day or 2 days. It's struggling. What will happen is the root will make something called abscisic acid. Abscisic acid will move up up through the xylem and to the leaf and to the stoma. Okay, and what it does is it will basically tell this plant or tell these cells to pump potassium back out. Okay, and so if these potassiums are pumped back out, guess what happens? Water follows. And if water follows, what happens? Then this cell, the guard cells, will resume the original shape like this, and then no water will be able to leave. So this is important to understand because abscisic acid is made during times of drought to close up the guard cells, to close up the stoma, so that no water can be lost, so the plant can conserve water to be able to survive. Okay? Okay, so that is really it that you have to understand about how the stoma works. I hope it makes sense. And stay tuned for the next video on plant biology.